We are the best here in the West, and until the national championships later in the year, we can hold that crown. But excited, obviously, with the NBL done and dusted and the WNBL. It's been nice to sort of have that grassroots basketball starting and some really exciting, bizarre finishes, half-court shots that didn't count. And then we're sort of seeing the emergence of some really exceptional talent from abroad. The thing that I saw this week, especially from the men's side, was a really dominant 2 wins from the Rockingham Flames, obviously last year's NBL1 West champions.
Their coach Ryan Petrick said they're going to be even better this year, which is a frightening claim, but the first weekend shows that they may just be on that track.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that, Meg, because I was part of that team last year, so I'm a little bit insulted when my old coach did say that they were going to be better. They brought in an import who had a sensational first 2 games, Devondrick Walker. Speaking to the guys, Tom Jervis didn't join the team for, I guess, pre-season until about 3 or 4 weeks ago, so I definitely had some concerns, but for them to go 2-0 was definitely pleasing in that regard.
So some big pre-season expectations on Coburn, but they didn't come through at the weekend.
No, unfortunately not. I think Courtney Alexander, the G League signing, disappointing performance. I mean, we can only go from 1 round, but definitely not alarm bells. Like, it's week 1. The matchup against Willerton Tigers, a traditional rival, to go down by 40 points on your home court, you sort of look at that a bit perplexed. But whether Courtney Alexander comes in with the G League and sort of underestimates what that looks like and not disrespects the league, but this is quality basketball across not just the NBL1 West, across Australia. And so I think they're watching the game, intensity and demeanour was certainly lacking, and I think they'll rebound this week.
Strong starts for some of the other powerhouse clubs in NBL1 West. Greg, tell us a bit about that and where you're expecting them.
They're traditional powerhouses, and Geraldton against a team that's going to struggle throughout the year, which is the Bunbury Slammers. Emphatic win, though, 60 points. The signing of Zach Katorna, that's exciting, and he was sensational. But I thought the return of Aaron Ralph, who is a cult figure down at that club, and was celebrated. They had a huge win, and that's what you need to do against those quality teams, especially early in the year. I'm excited to see Daniel Alexander signing in the off-season and what he's able to provide them. But the other player who was sensational throughout the weekend was Mitch Clark, previous Wildcats development player, played, I believe, for Bendigo last year. He averaged 16, 6 and 6 over the weekend.
Now, it's always a massive coup when an Olympian takes to the floor in NBL1, but in NBL1 West, it is a comeback of sorts for the great Mark Worthington. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, look, obviously I'm a bit of a sucker for storylines and what that looked like. And yeah, Mark Worthington returned at the ripe old age of, maybe young age of 40. Only had 6 and 3 on the Friday night against Rockingham, but then 10 and 6 against Coburn. But for me, it was just that leadership, physicality. He definitely made his presence known. And speaking to a member of the staff of Coburn and spoke about him, he just said that was the difference. Like, he set the tone. And that's what they need. They've got Willerton have some vets, but some young guys, and I think he'll do wonders for that club. You're not expecting to put up massive numbers, but I think he'll certainly make his impact. But as a sucker of a guy that comes back in there, I'm just waiting for the day that Sean Redridge announces his return, and they can go head to head for one game and see who gets injured first. But now it's good to see Werver on the court.
We'll have to dedicate a whole show to that, Greg, should that happen. But we love that players from all walks of the game can make their comeback to the sport in NBL1. We saw it with the GOAT, Lauren Jackson, in Albury-Wodonga in NBL1 East last year. Maybe Wertho mightn't go on to a World Cup after this like LJ, but it's wonderful that we are, a safe place and a happy court and playing ground for players to come back to the game no matter what their scenario is. Now, you mentioned some of them, but let's finish up with some of your players of the week for the men's comp.
I think you can't go by Devondrick Walker, 2-0, both games, over 30 points. In the fourth quarter, if anyone wants to sort of look at a dominant performance, turn on the fourth quarter against Willerton and the Rockingham Flames in the KO game of the week, and he scored 14 points in a row. And you sort of marvel at that. At times, I look at that talent in the league and I go, this is how much that's grown. And then Gordak Gak for the Willetton Tigers, 22 and 15 on Friday, and then a pretty solid performance in limited minutes against Cockburn again. Obviously, there's rumoured that he's going to be a Perth Wildcat signing. John Riley was there at the game on Friday night, and so he's going to definitely be someone to watch, and will go, I think, with a close to the MVP race as well, alongside Devondrick Walker.
Let's change our focus now to NBL1 West women's action in round one, and we're going to start with an East theme with Eastern Suns and also East Perth.
Yeah, really pleasing effort. Tim Radulik, who is, I think, in his second year at the Eastern Suns. Great start for them. Going 1-0, that's a team that sort of, been thereabouts for the last couple of years, but have always struggled. But for them to get a huge win, against Stirling Senators, and as I mentioned at the start of our chat, under, I guess, unique and controversial circumstances, Clinch Hoycard hits the shot from half court. Their celebration, jubilation, everyone's going absolutely bonkers. It's actually pretty sort of amusing scenes to watch, only for it to be ruled out. And I've watched back the clip 25, 30 times. The refs made the right call. There's no controversy about it, whether it just left the fingertips. It's clear that it didn't make, time expired. So, great start. Natalie Cho from UCLA, an import signing. I wouldn't be surprised if the play of her has a little bit more eyes on her throughout the season for the next upcoming WNBL season. Like UCLA, that's a powerhouse team. And then East Perth Eagles. Look, that's been a club for a significant period of time that have struggled in the women's competition. And for them to get a win against Perry Lakes on their home court in the first round, in a 1-point win, was huge. And so getting that was, I think, gives them a world of confidence. They've obviously recruited two sensational players, Sam Lupke, who came from the Willetton Tigers, and then Torreson, who's a Canadian import. So, but they both had fantastic games, and they're going to both need them to fire in the season to get upcoming wins.
Really looking forward to seeing what Natalie can produce as an import. You mentioned WNBL, and Robbie Ryan is the perfect example of what an NBL1 West campaign can do to elevate you into a rookie season in the WNBL. So I think watch this space on that one. Now, Tyrone Thwaites has been busy on the tools building his team. Tell us about the start that they got off to at the weekend.
Not only running an organisation and doing everything and trying to build and renovate a stadium, the great man. No, he's recruited exceptionally well in the off season, and I think they've continued to grow not only as a club but for that women's side over the last couple of years, getting to the semi-finals last year. But massive result against their rivals, against the Willetton Tigers. Willetton obviously missing a few players, and watch this space. We're talking about quality players. Sam Whitcomb will come in for a couple of guest appearances before she jets back off to the WNBA, which is incredible and shows how much we love our sport. But a 40-point win again for them, and he had Jewel Williams, Jesse Edwards. Really good. And then you're bringing in Paddy Brosman, who was an import for the Rockingham Flames last year. I think she put up a 50-point game. So, look, I think in these first parts where you're still sort of figuring out where you're at as a side and what does that off-season look like, a pretty emphatic sort of result to be like, hey, we're stamping our authority on this league, and they can only go on and up. So, well done to Tyrone, and as that club continues to grow.
It was an emphatic weekend for Rocky, but not for the right reasons. Tell me a little bit about that, because there would be expectations on them heading into this campaign.
To be completely honest, them going down to Joondalup isn't a result that you're looking at. That's obviously the NBL1 grand finals from last year. But I think the result against Willetton they would look back at, and hopefully doesn't hurt them in the back end of the season, with Willetton missing a couple of their players. Obviously, Perth Lynx guard Talia Burrows had a fantastic weekend, but they recruited a lot, and I think even which is sort of disregarded in some ways, super coach Rob Beveridge is an assistant coach of that club at that team, and obviously gives a wealth of wisdom to the head coach Tom Knowles there. So I think they would look back and go, geez, 0-2. They had a home game, and then that game against Willerton. And so last year, definitely not the result that they wanted. That's a proud side. Obviously, Ryan Petrick used to be the women's head coach there. Keegan Crawford, current Walker's assistant, won a championship with that team there as well. If there is anything, and alarm bells, like if they drop a couple more, it certainly would be ringing soon, because that's a proud organisation, and they expect results, and as do the fans. So 0-2, not definitely the start that they wanted.
Greg, let's finish off with your players of the week in NBL1 West Women.
Robbie Ryan, what a first round. 31, 5-5 for the Joondalup Wolves, and a big win against Rockingham Flames. I think the Perth Lynx would be hoping that she sort of slows down a little bit, because at one point, she was an import. Is she good enough? And I no doubt, I do believe that if her strong play continues, she'll definitely increase her price tag. So she had a sensational first up game. Mentioned it before with that half court heave. Clinch Hoycard 19 and 19 for that first game. They only played one game of the weekend. Alex Sharp, Willerton Tiger, had 17 and 14. I think 2 double-doubles over the weekend. So I think this is a big, I guess, off-season or period for Alex, in terms of where does she want to go with the Perth Lynx. There's obviously a lot of roster likelihood of turnover and whatnot. And I think for her, she's got to really be dominant in terms of what she wants to do and really go with that. So her setting the tone this weekend, that would be my 3 players, with Robbie Ryan the absolute standout in her first game.
Great start for Sharpie, and as you mentioned, Robbie Ryan, to have the season that she did in NBL1 West last year, and just the improvement over her WNBL campaign was huge. But this competition is huge for players that are in the WNBL or NBL or aspiring to be. So there's so many subplots that we love along the way. Love chatting with you, Greg. Can't wait to do it every week. Thanks so much for the round 1 wrap up. Enjoy the weekend's action, and we'll see you next week.
My absolute pleasure, Meg. Looking forward to it.